Hi, everyone. You're very welcome. I'm Jackie McLaughlin, and thank you for joining me today to share and learn a little bit about Shin Jyutsu. The focus today is on easing anxiety and learning ways that you can help yourself. So today, you don't need to try to do anything. There's no agenda, there's no exam, no icky bits. The most that I'll do is I'll invite you to hold your own hand. I'm here to guide you through gentle, easy practices that help you feel better. So I picked our image today of the nice fluffy bunny for two reasons. First of all, it's almost Easter, but more importantly for this topic, I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like a frightened rabbit with my heart racing and I just want to take flight. And that doesn't let me do the things that I want to do in my life. So I found a way to manage my anxiety, to ease the stress in my body, and to be more calm and centered and grounded. So I'll share with you something from a memory that I have. So if you join me, I remember sitting in a courtyard. It was a sunny day, amazing in Ireland, but yes, it was a sunny day and the sun was streaming down on my face and it was warming my arms. It was a beautiful day, but I couldn't really fully appreciate it. As I was sitting on this bench, I was waiting for an interview and I was so nervous. It was so important to me, but my nerves were blocking me in entering this new phase in my work at the time. I didn't know how I was going to get through this interview. My heart was racing, my head hurt, and my body felt like it was tied up in knots. Part of me just wanted to run away, but another part of me really wanted to do this interview. So even though I'd been studying Jinshin Jyutsu for a few years then, nothing came to mind to help myself because when we're in a state where we're very nervous, often we can't think clearly. And as I was looking down, I noticed my hands in my lap and they were like this. I was holding my wrist. So I invite you to hold your wrist for a few moments while I finish this story. As you begin holding your wrist and I hold my wrist, maybe notice how you're feeling. Could you put a number on it? If a 10 was through the roof anxiety and 0 was you were totally chill, maybe even asleep, where would you be right now? I'm pretty good. I'm around a 5 or a 6, just general nerves. Anytime we do a bit of showing up and all that, it can be a bit nervous, but where are you? Are you up around 10 or are you down around 2 or 3? So just make a note because I find that if I make a note of how I'm feeling at a time, it helps me to compare and to recognize when there's changes. So as we're holding our wrists, I'm going to take you back to that sunny day in the courtyard. And I was just waiting to be called. The worst part is the waiting sometimes. But in this case, it actually helped me because it gave me time to sit and to hold my wrist and to breathe more freely. I was trying very hard not to hold my breath, just to relax my shoulders. And after about 10 minutes, and during those 10 minutes, I reminded myself that everything was going to be okay. I'd been through this before and I survived. So I was likely to survive this time. So they called my name. I gathered up all my things off the bench and I followed the gal into the building. I was still nervous, but my shoulders had relaxed a bit. My breathing was slower and deeper. My headache had lessened. I was starting to be able to focus on things around me and to be able to hear what people were saying and all that. So as I entered the room, I introduced myself to the people and I sat down. I was still nervous, but I was ready to have this important interview. And I have to tell you, the interview, it was amazing in some ways because I got to talk about things that I really enjoyed talking about and interest me. And it was a great conversation. At the same time, I was still nervous. So I have to be honest, I held my wrist the whole time. And that's one of my favorite parts about Jinshin Jyutsu. You can help yourself anytime, anywhere, whether you're sitting in your home or you're sitting in an important meeting or on public transport. You can do it anywhere. So this Jinshin Jyutsu, I know that when I was first introduced to it, I couldn't say the word, let alone understand it. But this Japanese word or term means the art of the creator through the compassionate person. And it came about in the last century when a gentleman, Jiro Murai, he was a young man at the time, but he was terminally ill and he'd been to all the doctors and they couldn't cure him. They didn't have any answers for him. And I remember being in a similar situation where I had an immune disorder and the doctor said, we don't know what to tell you. We can't do anything for you. And that started my entry into this amazing art of Jinshin Jyutsu. So back to Jiro Murai, he was terminally ill. And even though he was just 26, he was preparing to meet his maker. So as they do in Japan, he went up to the mountain retreat and prepared to die. During that time, it was 7 days that he was up there. He held his hands in specific patterns called Mudras that I'll share with you in a little bit. And he practiced his breathing in a way that supported him. And after 7 days, he was healed. It's just amazing. I had doubts at first, and I've come to understand the simple yet powerful work that we can do with our own bodies with Jinshin Jyutsu. So Jiro Murai came down from the mountain and rejoined his family. And he devoted the rest of his life to understanding how these energies moved in our bodies, how the meridians worked. And he brought in the ancient wisdom. He got to visit the emperor's secret library and to take in all that information. And he also practiced and did case studies with individuals who had health issues. So he was combining all this knowledge and bringing it together. And he had students. One of the key students is the woman here shown in the picture, Mary Burmeister. She was a Japanese American woman who was living in Japan during that time. This was about in the 40s. And she studied with him and contributed. And then she went back to America and brought the gift of Jinshin Jyutsu to the Western world. And I'm really glad she did, because otherwise I wouldn't have these techniques and this art to help myself and other people. Now there's practitioners all over the world, and there's even more people who practice Jinshin Jyutsu on themselves and their friends and families. And it's hopefully Mary Burmeister wanted to have 2 practitioners on every block. So that would be amazing. It hasn't happened yet, but when you're working with the hand positions and the safety energy locks that I'll explain in a minute, it's actually accessing the energies that are circulating through our bodies called the meridians. And these are very similar to those that are used in acupuncture and in reflexology. So it's well known, and we have good evidence that we can improve our health using these hand positions and bringing in the meridians and traditional Chinese medicine. Where was I? Ah, yes, bringing Jin Shin Jyutsu from Japan to Ireland or wherever you are in the world. There's two ways that you can experience Jin Shin Jyutsu. You can do what right now, what we're doing. This is very much like a self-care workshop that you can come along to. Currently, they're online, given the COVID restrictions. And I would liken that to a yoga class, because when I go to my yoga class, the teacher shows us the moves and we mirror them, and we can practice it at home. So we can help ourselves at home as well. Similarly, the tips that I'm sharing with you today, you can do at home anytime and help yourself. It's a little bit different than just yoga because it's also like going to get a massage or a reflexology treatment, because you can go to a practitioner and have them help you harmonize your body. I look at it as we use our hands, which on specific places on the body, and it helps our body to remember how things used to be when we were in a better state. And it helps the energy to heal our bodies and to go through them. So you can either access Jin Shin Jyutsu through your self-care, or you can go for a session. When you do go for a session with a practitioner, you come in and we chat for a little bit. You lie down, you take off your shoes, you lie down on a nice comfy padded table, get a nice fuzzy blanket over you if you like it. And then the practitioner holds places on the body to help your body remember. Now, it's even easier during the restrictions because instead of coming to my practice, we connect energetically and electronically. Most people, when they have a session, fall asleep. That's how relaxing it is. And then I have some clients who come for sessions who don't have any major issues, but they want to feel better. It's a bit of pampering. So that's another benefit from Jin Shin Jyutsu. So a lot of people would do both, go for sessions and also practice self-help. And that's really the best way to do that. So enough about the technical parts. Let's get back to experiencing Jin Shin Jyutsu. So we've been holding our palms for a little while. And when we hold our wrist, we're actually holding one of the 52 safety energy locks on our body, because we have these energy centers, these locations where we're more prone to have congestion or tension. And each of these positions on our body from head to toe has a certain purpose and a certain function within our bodies and our beings to help us. So when we do this, if we're touching a certain energy lock, it can help us. So the one on our wrist on the little finger side is called Safety Energy Lock 17. And it helps to calm our nerves and connect with our intuition. It also helps us to connect with the universal energy that's always there. Sometimes though, when we get tense and life gets in the way, this energy can be disrupted in our bodies. And we need to find a way, or we can find a way, to ease that tension and to make things better for ourselves. So by holding our wrist, that helps to calm our nerves. And it does a lot of other things, but I'll leave it there for today. The other way that we can help ourselves, in addition to those safety energy locks, is through our hands. Very much like reflexology, all of the energetic pathways in our body, all the functions go through our hands and our feet. You may have gone for a reflexology session where you didn't want your feet touched. I don't know, maybe your feet are ticklish, or maybe you had something going on with your feet. You can actually heal yourself through your hands as well. So we're going to focus a bit on that now, in addition to safety energy locks. So as you can see in the picture here, while you're holding Safety Energy Lock 17, you can also hold your palm. You can gently place your thumb on your palm. With Jin Shin Jyutsu, there's no pressing, there's no rubbing. It's just a gentle holding, kind of like cradling your hand and giving yourself a hug. So as we hold the center of our palm, this helps us to come back to our own center, to be more connected with our body, to be more grounded, and to be more calm. Now you might be wondering, how long do I hold these for? And does it matter if I hold my left or my right hand? And you can hold, there's different facets of our being on our right and left, kind of like the right and left brain are very different, but it's all connected. So if you're holding your left hand, you're helping one part of your being, and it does help the right hand and the right side of your being. And the opposite is true if you're holding the right hand. So I tend to hold both hands. And some people will even put their hands together and do them both at the same time. So I invite you to check in with your body. How are you feeling? We've been practicing Jin Shin Jyutsu together for a few minutes now. Just to check in, are your hands relaxed? Is your breathing a little easier? Have your shoulders dropped a little bit? Now you might not be relaxed as this cute fluffy bunny here, but I think that it takes us time to release stress in our bodies. And part of that has to do with how our nervous system works, because we have the nervous system parts that help us to move and to sense things. Like if we had a hot surface, we would sense it that way. That has to do with our nervous system. We also have the autonomic nervous system parts, and that's what controls our breathing. When we're not forcing it a certain way, it controls all the body processes. It controls our heart rate. And that autonomic nervous system has two parts. It can help us in times of stress, and it can help us for healing. So the stress part that helps us gear up to fight the tiger, not that we have tigers these days, but we have the same response. That part of our nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that increases our heart rate, makes our breathing more quick. It tenses our body up. And it just really helps us if we're in a stressful situation where we have to fight or run. But when we're in that state for too long, it's a strain on our bodies. And it's one of those things where we want to be able to switch it off and to heal and relax. And how could we do that? Well, the body is amazing because in addition to the stress part of our autonomic nervous system, we have the restful healing part, which is the parasympathetic. I've switched those earlier. I'm really sorry. The sympathetic nervous system is the stress part, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the healing part. So please, if you've been making notes, make that change. So the parasympathetic part of our nervous system helps to slow down our heart rate, slow down our breathing, and help us to heal. So we want to switch that part on as much as possible. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And one of the ways is through Jin Shin Jyutsu. So we'll do a little bit more Jin Shin Jyutsu before we wrap up and I take questions. So when we hold our fingers, if you hold your little finger, it helps us to ease effort when we're trying to be a certain way. And it's important because if we're efforting it, it can put a strain on our bodies, emotions, and thoughts. For example, I had one lady who came to me for a session and she was very upset when she arrived. She was in tears and her body was so tense. And she said her head felt like it was in a washing machine. So she was just very worried about things in her life and how they would turn out. So during our session, I focused on her energies to reconnect her with her serenity. And that included some sequences for the energies that travel through the little finger. As I was working through the session, she relaxed. She actually fell asleep. And at the end of the session, she said she felt better. So I suggested that she hold her little finger when she thought of it. And when I called her the next day, she said she was much happier and calmer. So that made my day, because I always like it when people feel better. That's why I do what I do. Now, we can also go one more step. And this is one of the mudras that Jiro Murai used to heal himself. There were 8 of them. And by holding our little finger and our ring finger together, it's amazing, because not only do we help all the things we talked about with the little finger, our ring finger helps with our breathing. It helps us to let go of any sadness that we have and helps to connect us with our joy. So, but simply by holding these fingers, this mudra, we can help our being. And when I'm practicing the mudras, I add a bit of attention to my breathing, a bit like a meditation. So when I have time, I'll hold this mudra or whatever safety energy lock or hand position I feel will help me at that time. And I do 36 conscious inhales and 36 conscious exhales. That allows me to release the effort and to reconnect with my joy and serenity. So I hope you find this helpful too. Now I have one more tip before our time is up. And that's another part of our hand, holding our thumb. If you think about it, babies hold their thumbs, or they suck their thumbs actually. But by holding our thumbs, it's very good for supporting our nervous system, because the energetic pathways that go through our thumb are responsible for our nervous system. It also helps with our digestion and worries, and it can help us to relax, it can be more grounded as well. So if we can make a transition to the more restful healing phase by turning on our parasympathetic nervous system, we can feel better. And it also switches the kind of hormones that are being activated in our bodies. When we're stressed, you've probably heard that cortisol is a key issue. But when we're in a more restful phase, our bodies manufacture or produce oxytocin, the love hormone. Much better. So simply by holding our thumb, dropping our shoulders, and following our breath, we can help our bodies move into a more restful, rejuvenating state. So we've spent a bit of time together now doing Shin Jyutsu, and I'm wondering, how are you now? I'm feeling a little bit better, more along the lines of a 3 or so, much better than when we started this. But how are you feeling? Do you notice a difference? Are your shoulders more relaxed? Are you feeling a bit more calm? Maybe you feel more grounded and present and connected. This is an example of how we can remind our body to feel better and be better. Now, I would love to continue this conversation with you, but our time is about up. So I'll be giving additional talks this weekend and over the coming weeks with the mind-body experience. There'll be different topics like sleeping well, improving our memory. And then tomorrow, I'll be sharing about how to calm arthritis and joint concerns. So if you have some joint issues or someone you know has some joint issues, I hope you'll join me. I have 3 key takeaways from today, because I don't know about you, but when I go to a talk and I've listened for 20 minutes, I can kind of get lost a little bit. So this is what I really want you to remember. First thing about Shin Jyutsu is you can help yourself anytime, anywhere. if you'd found these tips helpful and you'd like to have a printout with the words as well as the pictures so that you can refer back to them, just let me know. I can send it out to you. And if you would like to experience more Jin Shin Jyutsu with me, you can book a session or book into a self-care workshop. The next one, I think, is the 16th of April. So you can find that information and you can contact me either by ringing me or on my website or social media. So I hope you found this helpful, and thank you very much.